Hey, it's Louise, Hvala, and you're watching Gatehouse Insights. On today's episode, I'm joined by Martin Alden, who is the partner and head of employment at Cornwall Stodart lawyers. Martin, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
So I wanted to begin with your legal career journey and how you've got into partnership.
Sure. My journey actually started with rejection, which is a bit like my love life when I was in high school. But it started off, like a lot of law students, I did a number of seasonal clerkships, and some of them I liked, some of them I didn't like. But there were a couple that I did like, and under the system there's a date where employer law firms can make offers. And I think it was around August, and so that's the earliest opportunity that they can call you up and say, would you like to do your articles, as it was then with us. And so every law student is kind of on edge at that stage, waiting for the phone to ring, and I was one of them at the time. And there were a couple I was pretty hopeful about. And the phone rang, because I think it had to be 8:30 or 9 a.m. They couldn't call before then. So the phone rang, and it was one of the firms where I'd done a clerkship at, and they said, look, we're taking 10 people, 10 graduates in this intake. You're number 11, and we always get people to knock us back because they're going to a different firm or whatever reason it is. So we're calling you to let you know that there's a good chance we're going to have a job for you if you want it, and we're putting you on notice because we're going to get a couple of people to knock us back at some point. And another firm called, and these were the two that I actually really liked, and said, we're taking 6 people in our intake, you're number 7. So just so you know, because we're always going to get a rejection, so you'll be the next on our list. So just bear that in mind if you get other calls. I said, sure. So I was like, oh, this is fantastic. I, might have 2 options to choose from. And then the phone didn't ring for the rest of the day, and it got to about 5 o'clock, and they both called and said, this has never happened before, but they all accepted. And so I was like devastated. And they said, this is really strange. And one of them was kind enough to say to me, look, we did really like you. If there aren't any other offers for you, come and do another clerkship with us. And, they couldn't guarantee anything, but next year there'd be a good chance. So I thought that was the kind of silver lining to the bad situation. So I was like, okay, well, that sounds good. And then I think it was like 2 weeks later, they called me, and it was Herbert Gear and Rundle, as it was then, and they were the ones who were only taking 6, and said, oh, one of the people actually just told us they want to defer their year, so you actually can come with us if you still want to the following year. So I basically fell in. Is it a Stephen Bradbury? Is that the guy who was the ice skater and everyone else fell over? And so I kind of felt a bit like that, but I happily took it. And so I started off there, and I was working in the tax team and corporate team for 6 months as part of my rotation. And then I went to the employment team for the other 6 months, and then I had the choice of which area do you want to do, and I chose, it was a difficult decision actually at the time, I chose the employment team, and that's all I've done ever since. And so I kind of worked my way through the ranks there, and I stayed there for about 5.5 years, and it was a really good place. It no longer exists. Herbert Gear and Rundle as a firm. We then went to Herbert Gear, and now it's Thompson Gear. And then I went to Middleton's, which also now no longer exists. They've become K&L Gates. But I was there for also about 5 years and really enjoyed my time there, and I was a senior associate there. And then I got a tap on the shoulder, I guess, because I think most firms want to have an employment team in their practice. It's a good offering for clients because if businesses have staff, there's issues that arise from time to time. So I started to think, what, maybe I'm ready for that and could do the job. And when I was running things past the partners who I was working with, who were all lovely people, and I learned a lot off them, the feedback and corrections were getting less and less. And it was just, yep, that's fine, that's fine, that's fine. So I thought, what, I think I'd be able to do this. And I got a tap on the shoulder, and that was to a firm called Marshalls and Dent, and I was there for about a year, and then I got another tap on the shoulder from another firm where I'm at now, Cornwall Stodart, and where I've been for about 2.5 years. And that was how it all kind of came together, how I became a partner, I guess. That was a very long answer to your question.
It's a good story. It's good.
Well, it was one of those things where when I got rejected, that crystallised the resolve in me that I wasn't going to let that opportunity slip again. Because I think up until that, I'd always got good marks and had done well and, got to do law, which is what I wanted to do and all that kind of stuff. And this was the real first rejection of, hey, this isn't going to be that simple for you potentially. And I kind of got the opportunity, and I ended up at Herbert Gear and Rundle, where I was one of 6. I was the last of the 6 still left there. So I was the last one in and the last one out. And the managing partner at the time, whenever he would see me, he'd actually kind of comment about the persistence and, how well it all turned out, that I kind of slid in and I was there for by far the longest out of everyone. So it kind of made me appreciate opportunities more.
Yeah. Persistence is key.
Well, that's right. Someone who I used to work with used to say persistence beats resistance. And I think there's a bit of truth to all of that. And I was going to make sure that that wasn't going to happen again.
So reaching partnership, you would have faced some challenges, if any. What type of challenges have you faced being in partnership level, and how have you overcome them?
It's a good question, because I think when you're starting off your legal career, you're just learning the ropes. I mean, you really don't know anything. As university teaches you some vague concepts about things, but you don't know anything, how to be a lawyer, which is probably not a good reflection of the university system when you think about it. Teaches you how to have a lot of fun, but not necessarily how to be a good lawyer. So you're learning and you keep learning, and then I guess you reach a stage where you kind of understand how the legal private practice world works. And in terms of the challenges, I guess when you become partner, and look, I'm the only employment law partner at my firm, I'm the one who's basically, responsible for running that ship, or that part of the ship. And I've got lots of other partners who run their own little ships as well, and we're all kind of heading in the right direction. So the challenge is really, I'm the one ultimately responsible for my little ship and trying to make sure it's steering in the right direction. And there's nothing unusual about that. You're still dealing with trying to make sure clients are happy and that the work still comes through the door and that administratively everything's running well. But that, in terms of the challenges, it's just that, I guess the biggest challenge once you become partner is that sense of overall responsibility to make sure everything is running as it should be.
Does anyone give you any training on, what you need to look at to help you be better?
Well, I guess you get feedback. So at our firm, when there's an executive, and sometimes you get feedback, but it's a bit like, in my space, I deal with a lot of the, obviously, employment side of things, and often I see people who are technically really good at their job and they get a promotion, which involves actually doing less of the hands-on stuff and more of the management and supervision, and they just have no idea how to do that because they're really good at this part, but it's a whole different kind of skill set to manage people and lead a team and the rest of it. I guess the legal world is a bit different in the sense that by the time you get to a senior associate level, you should be delegating, and I was given the opportunity to be responsible for billings and for what I was working on, and delegating and mentoring and the like. So I think it's something which, if you're in the right environment, you will pick up the skills, as opposed to just doing I just help clients and everything else isn't my responsibility. I was in an environment which wasn't like that, so I kind of was taught over a long period of time how things should work, and I was very lucky in that regard.
Because a lot of lawyers don't actually get that
That's
training.
right,
So
yeah,
that's
right. And I think, just because of the size and nature of the firms I was in, that was something that I was taught, and I was very lucky to have worked with partners before me who were really excellent at teaching and mentoring and showing how things should be done, which, I think I was just lucky in that regard.
And tell me, what are some of the rewards of partnership?
Obviously, I have a Lamborghini now. No, I don't. I certainly don't. I guess the rewards are, some people don't necessarily like it. I come across a lot of lawyers and they say, my goal is to be a partner. And I say, why? And they're not really sure. They just think that's the measure of success if you're going to be doing it. I'm not sure that's right. The thing that I probably enjoy is being the leader of the team and almost the master of my own destiny. I'm very lucky I don't really have people micromanaging me from terms of the other partners. I'm trusted to do that, and I like that sense of responsibility and the trust they give in me. And I get to deal with my colleagues and clients who are really fantastic people on the whole. But for me, the biggest reward is actually having that responsibility, and it's very rewarding when things are going well, and you've got a plan and it kind of comes to fruition.
And having been a partner for, I think, is it almost 4 years now?
Yeah, something like that.
What have you seen to be the habits of highly effective partners?
It's a good question. It's a really good question. I mean, I was lucky to work under previously some really good partners, some fantastic ones, and it's hard to actually find a recurring theme in all of them and all the others who I work with now. I guess you obviously have to have good technical knowledge so that you can talk about the things that clients need you to talk about, and the ability to work well with others, and be good at what you are meant to be doing. I think it's hard. Like, I often see articles and read books about the habits of effective people. I don't know, I think everyone's different. Everyone just needs to find their own kind of way of doing things. My experience, there are two really good or successful lawyers. The ones who are technically excellent, and clients often tend to find them because they're so good that they might not be able to talk very well and communicate very well, might be grumpy half the time, but they'll get it done and they'll do it in the way it needs to be done, and so clients will forgive everything else. And then there are those that are really good networkers and BDers, and clients follow them, and they're smart enough to know sometimes they're not necessarily the best lawyers, but they'll palm that off to those who are. And the really amazing ones are the ones who are good at both those things, and that's pretty hard to find, I think.
So you touched on something before about business development and marketing skills. How important is it for partnership level, and what should lawyers be doing now to I suppose, develop and grow those networks? I
think every law firm would be telling its lawyers it is important, and it is, because at the end of the day we all rely on clients to keep the business afloat. So it's really important. I guess it depends on where you are, the level of importance. I know lots of people have become partners and they've inherited clients and files, and it just depends on the circumstance. But it certainly is a key thing because, as I said, we all rely on clients to live. And in terms of tips, I think it's just about putting yourself out there and building those relationships. And I don't think people should do anything which they're not comfortable with or which is really fake or insincere. So don't pretend to love golf and become a member of your golf club because you think that's where you're going to find clients. I think people will see through you pretty quickly, but just to find something in your own way with your own interests and your own social circle that suits your style. So not everyone's a heavy drinker who wants to go out and get drunk with the guys and mix that way. If that doesn't suit you, well, don't do that because it'll become apparent. But just find your own niche, I would say, and I guess get out of your office. I think a lot of lawyers, as I said before, are very comfortable in their office doing the work, and ultimately that's what we're paid to do. But from time to time, get out of your office, being interviewed by you, and do something different than what you always do, and get out of your comfort zone, I think is an important thing.
You also do a lot of public speaking. How has that worked for your personal brand?
It's a good question, I'm not sure. I generally enjoy it, so talking about the subject matter that I'm very familiar with is something that's easy to do when I have clients who come to me with issues, and so I can spot what's important and what people want to hear about, and stories and case studies that they can relate to. But I do see it, I guess, as part of the branding exercise, and for me and my firm to say, well, we're experts at this, so please feel free to come and speak to us about it because we know what we're doing. But I've always found if you know what you're talking about, public speaking's not a difficult thing to do because you're just getting the information out there. And it sometimes surprises me. I think when I first started doing it, I assumed a level of knowledge which I shouldn't have. So you get out there and people ask you genuine questions. But it is a good way to, I guess, get your name out there and also to meet people and share your knowledge, I guess.
Moving on to leadership, can you share your style of leadership you have with your team?
Sure. I'd probably best describe it as dictatorial. No, I'm joking. I don't know what to be honest, I think I've been asked that once before, and I honestly don't know what my leadership. You'd probably be better off talking to the people I work with to ask them that. The reality is, I guess, I try to treat people as the way I like to be treated, so I trust them to do the job. So a lot of my job's about delegating and trying to mentor and supervise, but so I will deal with them in that way. I think when it comes to leadership, some people are born leaders, and I'm not sure people who aren't can ever become really good leaders, but I think you can become a good manager and mentor and supervisor. They're skills that are important if you want to, I guess, progress and have a team and the rest of it. So I'm not sure I've answered your question, but it's really about, working well with the people and supporting them to deliver what we're trying to deliver.
Is there anything you've done to, I suppose, enhance your leadership skills?
Not really. I think it's something that just over time, and again, it's something part of your legal career. When you start out, you're given jobs to do, and you do them, and you're kind of just doing them yourself, and you give it to the partner to sign off with. And then as you progress, you start to delegate jobs yourself, even at the senior associate level, and mentor them. And I think some people are naturally good at that or not, and I've always enjoyed doing that just naturally. So, and I think it's probably a shortcoming of the legal industry that we don't really invest in things like that enough. As I said before about, just because you're good at doing the technical side doesn't mean you'll be a good manager, and I think it is problematic probably in the legal industry as much as any other that we're good at that, but maybe we don't necessarily always know how to communicate and supervise and teach. But I think I've just hopefully naturally picked it up, and touch wood, I haven't had any concerns with it so far.
And what's one tip you would give lawyers wanting to take that step up to partnership?
It's a really difficult question, that, because everyone is different and every circumstance is different, and firms have different ways of reaching partnership, different criteria they judge you on. I mean, I've come across partners who they've become a partner because someone is retired, or someone's brother-in-law is now the CEO of a massive company, and that has helped their career. And I've also seen situations where people have become partners and they've thought they wanted it, and it's actually been hell for them. They haven't enjoyed it at all because of the pressures associated with being a partner. So I guess my advice as corny as would be, just be, I guess, true to yourself, and if that's where you want to be, I guess don't leave any stone unturned and grasp any opportunity that comes your way, whether it's with a colleague or a client, to learn and develop as much as you can.
Martin, this has been wonderful, so thank you for sharing.
Thank you, thanks for having me.
Pleasure. Now, Martin and I would love to hear from you. What is the biggest insight you're taking away from today's conversation? Comment and share below and let us know. If you like this episode, please subscribe to our channels and share this video with your friends. And thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time on Gatehouse Insights.